all colleagues from Indonesian universities, colleagues from IIUM. Thank you very much for organizing this session. I think for some of you, you will know that we have been doing these sessions before. I think as mentioned by Prof. Norma, the idea is to share experiences of everyone on how teaching of Islamic economics is done. So what I want to do in this next 50 minutes, I will try to focus on this idea of teaching Islamic economics, teaching economics from Islamic perspective. In this case, macroeconomics. For us to learn lessons from others. So when we say others, we mean everybody here, right? Even though in IIUM we may have a longer history of introducing Islamic economics, there are many pluses and also minuses from our own experience. So we may share with you not only the success stories but also the shortcomings. And the idea is to learn. And learning from others should also include learning from our colleagues all over the world. And what I will be sharing is actually an example of a university in the US. I will share with you now. And if I can get, okay. Oh, all right. So just a few points that I would like to share. I hope I will have time to go through all the slides. The central issue is change. Yeah, we are talking about developing Islamic economics and to teach from Islamic perspective. This means that we must be able to talk, understand change and what that change requires. Yeah, so I will be looking at some examples coming from the US on how they talked about change and what they did. Yeah, so maybe we can learn lessons from them. All right. So of course, being from Triple IT, and since Prof. Fauzan is also here, I need to put in context. Yeah. We are talking about Islamization of knowledge or integration of knowledge agenda. And when we talk about change, we are referring to how we change the curriculum that we are teaching now. And as far as Triple IT is concerned, we are talking about doing it through the IOK agenda. All right. So I know there are some people who don't accept the IOK agenda, but I think at least as far as Triple IT is concerned, as far as IIUM is concerned, we think that the IOK agenda is the way forward. We do not have to start from zero. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. Human civilization, as shown by Prof. Norma, looking at all the different scholars and books that have been written, everybody learns from everybody else. If, as Muslims, we think we cannot learn from non-Muslims, then something is wrong. Yeah. History has shown that every civilization will learn from the previous civilization. Right? The only thing is we need to know what we can accept, what we need to reject, and what we need to modify, and how to do it. Right? So this is what IOK, if I can give it as a summary, this is what IOK is. Yeah? And out of all the disciplines, Alhamdulillah, economics actually has been one of the most advanced. I say advanced because we talked about the conference in 1976 as the first conference, and therefore it has been around almost 50 years, coming to 50 years. Right? So we've been around for a long time. The challenge is this, and I'm sure colleagues in Indonesia, you will agree. The ability of academics, us, to genuinely do that IOK process. We talk about modern economics, we talk about modern knowledge, we talk about the Torah, the Islamic heritage. how do we integrate the two? That's the challenge, right? And it's very difficult to find people who are comfortable with both. They are comfortable with modern knowledge, they are comfortable with Torah. Because of our education and training, we are either trained in Torah or we are trained in modern economics or modern finance or whatever discipline is. The other side is not as much. So that's our challenge. Yeah? So that's our challenge. And because of academic challenge, we also have teaching material challenge. And what is it that we are teaching? So we are using conventional textbooks, and then what is the additional material that we are using? That is why the end goal of Islamization or IOK agenda is to produce textbooks. And there are very, very few textbooks available. Maybe in Indonesia you have lots of textbooks, but I'm not sure in terms of Islamic perspective how advanced or how preliminary it is. Okay, not moving. Okay, all right. So basically, we are talking about transformation change or transformation process or change process. IOK is all about. So what are we doing here? I'm just going to skip this, please. Okay. But universities and university academics are very conservative when it comes to making change. I studied in Chicago. I studied in this university. Monetary school is the school. Nothing else makes sense. To change it is very difficult, because we come from that kind of training. So this conservativeness is what is going to be a problem. We must be able to institute a change among our colleagues. To be more precise, if I come from FIC background, I cannot see the economic side. If I come from economic background, I cannot appreciate the FIC approach. So bringing the two sides together is always a challenge, right, in all universities. But we look at it this way. Differences are there, but it is actually enabling us to learn from each other. So we may differ. I disagree. Prof. Norma was talking about Prof. Asad Zaman. He has been in many conferences, and we have big differences, not only with Prof. Asad Zaman, with Monderkab. I think some of us have listened to the debates between the economists. Alhamdulillah, if you are able to accept the difference of opinion, but to move forward, this is what we need to do. Okay, so this series, I think already mentioned, we are basically wanting to learn from our experiences, mainly in Southeast Asia, although we have one participant from Oman that will present later. And I just want to mention this International Federation of Islamic Economics and Finance Education, the latest association that we have established. Alhamdulillah, we hope that this federation will become the platform for us to develop teaching materials, to exchange maybe students and staff, and also to talk about collaboration of various kinds, maybe to write a textbook, maybe to a variety of things that can be done. So let's hope this time around, finally, we have this federation that we can look forward to improving our development of Islamic economics. And don't forget, yesterday over dinner I was mentioning to Dr. Irfan, although we may say the first conference was in Makkah, and in the last 15 to 20 years, 50, 60, 70% of activity going on in Islamic economics, research, education is in Southeast Asia. And certainly Indonesia is now a major player, right? right? I forget how many Islamic economic programs you have. Somebody mentioned to me.
800 now.
800. The last time I think it was 300 something.
Yeah.
Now 800.
350 campus.
So, numbers of the interest of Islamic economics in this area. Therefore, the amanah is ours. Right? We have that trust now to lead. I think we need to be leading in this area. And Alhamdulillah, our colleagues in the International of Islamic Economics that was established in 1981 or 2, they have actually realized that this region is the booming region. And the current president, Dr. Omar Hafiz, was very supportive of activities in the federation. And that's why they agreed to also push for collaborative activities. Yeah? So we're looking forward to good work out. Okay, now, learning from others must include learning from alternative approaches used in other regions. In this case, we're looking at one particular university, which is Tufts University, Tufts. Tufts is a small university in the US. It's an Ivy League university. And in that university, they have graduate school. Sorry, it's not here. Oh, sorry, it's not. Next slide, maybe. This is just talking about the heterodox movement, postautistic-economics.net, heterodoxeconomics.com. These are two websites to look at alternatives in the West, criticizing neoclassical economics. Okay, so very, very much more advanced. And of course, among Muslim economists, Prof. Asad, Zaman, Fahim Khan, Rejatullah Siddiqui, of course, all these are pioneers, and many others are now talking about this. But not easy to institute change. So talking, but to actually do it is not easy. All right, where are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Tufts University. They have Global Development and Environment Institute. Okay, now I can't see the right. So what is it that they want to do in this Global Development and Environment Institute? They want to introduce an alternative to economics to show that it is an interdisciplinary approach that emphasizes ecological. So this is the big, they have been doing this for the last 20 plus years. Cultural, social, and institutional factors. There are also many other heterodox schools like institutionalist, post-Keynesian, feminist, big thing in many countries in the West. And therefore, this institute has produced a book. Please Google. You can get the whole book if you want to use it as a reference, and they give it free to instructors. Economics in Context. They call the book Economics in Context. And what was interesting, although they are in the US, European colleagues, they said that they don't want to use the American text, so they came up with European edition. Okay, so it's just like in our, is it Cornell or what is the book that we use? We have an Asian International edition, there's an Asian edition, right? So they came up with European edition. So even US and Europe, they don't necessarily agree on everything. So they want to learn, but they want to also modify. And what are the challenges to change? If you are promoting alternative views, departments that promote alternative views may be committed to one or another traditional, so Marxian, Keynesian, leftist, etc. They are not necessarily open to newer schools. So even among the alternatives, sometimes they are very rigid. If they have an institutionalist approach, they don't want to accept other approaches. Now, when we talk about Islamic economics, are we going to also exclude all other schools and we want to say only Islamic? But then the question will be, what is that Islamic? Can we have an Islamic perspective that is inclusive, that is willing to accept differences? Whoa. Okay. All right, then where is Islamic economics situated? I will need five, I think. It's going to be five. Where is our Islamic economics? In this university, it is in the economics faculty. But in many universities, it is in the Sharia faculty, right? So this is going to be a challenge. And when you have an alternative faculty, sometimes the funding is not there. So you have big problem trying to get funding, trying to convince people that your economics is actually economics. Yeah, in many universities they will say this is not economics, and so even maybe a commercial enterprise will not want to fund your activities. What about your department? So you need to ask. Yeah, what about your next generation of scholars? Economic departments are generally oriented to preparing students for higher level degree. What about the marketplace? So yesterday, Dr. Irfan was saying from APD, even sometimes before you graduate, the students have got jobs. Alhamdulillah, if that's the case for all the universities in Indonesia, that's a very, very plus sign. We hope that is the case. Insufficient awareness on variety of options in textbooks. Are we aware of alternative texts? We know McConnell and Brew, we know Mankiw. I haven't taught theory for a long time, so I'm not sure what the latest books are, but those were the books we were using. And therefore, Triple IT, Alhamdulillah, is sponsoring teaching materials project. So far, we've been doing it in Malaysia, but we hope that Triple IT Indonesia will initiate this project and fund all of you who want to write books to be used in courses that you teach in Indonesian universities, because that's what we need to have. Existing theories are elegant, appear internally consistent, but sometimes this abstraction is not questioned. Yes? So basically, do we encourage our lecturers, students to question and be critical? Steve Keen, Debunking Economics. Very famous book. Neoclassical math is wrong, according to him. What we are teaching, according to him, is wrong. So you need to have advanced math in order to know that neoclassical math is wrong. Now, I asked some of colleagues in IIUM about this. So far, I haven't got a response yet. But if there's anybody in Indonesian universities, please take a look at the book, look at the math, and see whether it is right or wrong. If it is wrong, why are we still teaching it? Because we studied it. So we studied it and we teach it. But it may be wrong. Young lecturers are warned not to teach anything too radical. This is in the US. Yeah? All these points are in US. So in US universities, the younger lecturers who are interested in alternative and other views, don't be too radical. Don't change the... And this is a major issue. So if you want to talk about Islamic economics, how are you going to publish in Social Science Index and Scopus? If you give different views, can your article be accepted in the journals? Yeah. And this is true, right? There is a lot of politics in journals. So what do? How do we get our, at the one hand, published, but at the same time, promote Islamic economics? This is a challenge. How to change this institutionalized system. More slides. Yes. Are we capable of offering critique? Now, why I'm doing this also, to show you that sometimes the criticism from the West towards neoclassical economics is sometimes more advanced than our critique from Islamic perspective. We don't have that much criticism. Maybe Prof. Asad Zaman is one example, Fahim Khan is one example. We need to have many, many more people who are willing to offer solid critique. Right? It takes long to teach the internal logic, graphs, etc. Okay, that we just move. Time and imagination are great constraints. It is hard to do something new and different. It is relatively easy to go along with what everyone else is doing. And I give Islamic banking as a very good example. it was very difficult to promote the Islamic economics view of banking. And so what we had was Islamic banking industry. Alhamdulillah, now after many, many years, they are questioning Islamic banking themselves. In Malaysia, we have something called value-based intermediation. What is it? Going beyond profit. So what is that going beyond profit? This is exactly what Prof. Norma said. It's looking for the social impact. Yeah? And this is an opportunity for us to promote what we want to promote. Students are generally taught that economics is all about mathematical modeling. Basically, this whole point is, how do you offer a critique that has got logic, coherence, and also maybe the math, the quantitative. And I think maybe this is one area that we lack. I just end this part by just saying that, thinking of others, that should be the base of our Islamic economics. This is what I got from Norma. Thinking of others. How do we incorporate thinking of others in our field? In Western economics, they talked about this in the 1970s. They call it interdependent utility function. But it is not discussed anywhere in our discourse in Islamic economics. Interdependent utility function. My utility depends on you. So if our theory says we have to think of others, we should be developing this and develop the math and the sophistication to present that in formal modeling. And so some of you who are interested in this area, this is what you need to do. How you do it for macroeconomics. This is going to be a bigger challenge. Okay, I know the time is already done. Okay, let's go to the content. What elements of the standard content and methods are actually useful? Time. How do you teach Islamic perspective in the 14 weeks? I think in Indonesian university also semester. So if you're supposed to teach economics in 14 weeks, how do you teach economics plus Islamic economics in 14 weeks? If your degree used to be 4 years, now you want to teach Islamic perspective, how do you teach economics and Islamic economics in 4 years? Everybody wants to finish and go and work, right? So you have a challenge. So time is a very, very important point, and interdisciplinary, right? You need to bring in different areas, and that's a challenge to nearly all of us. So that's one big issue. Information, time. I'm giving you some resources. Please check what they did in the US to provide resources for their students for alternative approach. Outreach, we are doing this now. Networking, we have to do it, I think, in Southeast Asia. Share resources and share experiences. And finally, we need to think about graduate students. How do we support? Okay, so I think this is one area that we need to think about, maybe in the Federation. Conducting department and institutional analysis. A department that seriously wants to improve what it delivers to students can take of this university. They did it in 2013, Willamette University. They examined their structure, content, curriculum. We do it as part of our requirement to have a curriculum review, but do we go beyond? Do we make the change, or are we just tweaking a little bit here and there? Learning from others, very, very, very important. And finally, engaging activists, especially students. We need to create among our students a few group of what we call student activists in Islamic economics. Alhamdulillah, in Indonesia, I think you already have very, very good and excellent students. They are very active even in IIUM. ISEFIT, I think just recently they had a program, 20 years, is it? Yeah, 20 years anniversary in IIUM. Alhamdulillah, I think many of you were very active when you were there. We need to develop this in all our universities. Concluding comments. Maybe can you click the stop moving. Next slide.